Hi everyone, it's Gene Calderon here with Gene Calderon Apologetics Ministries, and today, being Monday, we are going to have another teaching day, and on Mondays we like to do what we call Messiah Mondays. And on Messiah Mondays is usually when we take a Jewish historical and cultural look at the Gospels, and specifically looking at Jesus and how he is described in the Gospels and what was the culture then, and even what discipleship looked like amongst him and his own disciples and the rabbis and the other teachers such as Pharisees and Sanhedrin and all those different things that we probably have heard about but can take a little bit of a deeper look into to understand what the culture was like. One of those things is that when we hear about some great teachers in the first century, the time of Jesus, we do recognize that some of the great teachers or some of the great rabbis would actually bring together different passages from different places of the Bible in order to explain and dig into some deeper truths. Now, again, this doesn't work unless the audience is very familiar with those truths, and that's where sometimes we miss it. I don't know how familiar we are with the Hebrew Scriptures, and by that I mean the Old Testament. We have to keep in mind that during the time of Jesus, as he's walking this out, the New Testament doesn't exist yet. They only have the Hebrew Scriptures. And so Jesus was actually able to do this many times, especially when you read in the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew chapter 5 through chapter 7. There's plenty of references in those passages to Isaiah and to the Psalms, where Jesus says things like, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn," or "Blessed are the meek." These are all passages that would have reminded all of those listeners and all of those audience about different parts of the Bible where God had promised to rescue his faithful followers. Again, you have to know the scriptures very well in order to catch that. And Jesus' audience was familiar. This was their whole culture. This was their history. This is how they learned and educated themselves, was through the Bible at that time. And so Jesus was able to pull together a variety of scriptures to make one major point, and that is that God is faithful. We keep reading that, and you look through in all these different things and all these different situations that Jesus brings up, all these passages that he brings up that have the same ending, that Jesus basically is saying God is faithful, God cares for us, and he will bless us, and as we seek him, even when life is painful. And so it's a great thing to be able to do this. In fact, God himself does this, and he enjoys bringing together different passages that he knows the audience is familiar with. If you remember when Jesus was baptized by his cousin John the Baptist, God the Father spoke from heaven saying, "You are my son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." Did you catch the references there? Again, maybe not. If we're not familiar enough with the scriptures, we're probably missed that, heard that, and thought, oh, that's a good thing to say about Jesus, or that's a nice thing to say about his son as he's being recognized by John the Baptist and being baptized and about to start his ministry. But did you miss the references? Did you miss Psalm chapter 2, specifically verse 7, where it says, "I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, 'You are my son. Today I have become your father.'" Or did we catch the other reference from Genesis 22? In verse 2 it says, "Then God said, 'Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you.'" Or what about the reference to Isaiah chapter 42? In verse 1 it says, "Here is my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations." So to understand the deeper meaning, we need to know the context of each of these passages and the way that people of that time would have understood that. Both Psalm 2 and Isaiah chapter 42 are messianic prophecies. Psalm 2, God announces his son, who will be the King of Kings. Isaiah 42 tells us that God's servant, also known as the Messiah, whom the Spirit will be upon, which is amazing because it's happening right then and there where the Spirit comes down on Jesus in the form of a dove. God's Messiah would be a servant and a king. And then God does say, "whom I love," which is probably drawn from Genesis 22. Not everybody agrees with this, but here's the reference. In Genesis 22, we hear the account of Abraham who is about to sacrifice Isaac, the son whom he loves. This is a foreshadow of the Father's own feelings for his own son. It's almost as if God were saying, here is my Isaac, giving us a hint of his future sacrifice. What God was saying was amazing. In 3 short quotes from Scripture, God tells us about Jesus as a king, as a servant, and as one who would come and become the sacrifice. I mean, God packed a lot into these very short phrases. And lastly, if we notice that these quotes were coming from Scripture, we would probably notice that they come from the 3 sections of the Hebrew Scriptures, or what we call the Old Testament. And they come from the law, the writings, and the prophets. These are 3 sections of the Old Testament: the law, the writings, and the prophets. Genesis is from the law, Psalm is from the writings, and Isaiah is from the prophets. And so what we're getting here is another hint that all of the scriptures will find their fulfillment in Jesus. The Jewish culture would have understood this. We need to understand this and get a bigger impact of what was happening at that time by being able to string together all these passages, know where they're from, know the context from them, and be able to understand, wow, God is saying something amazing, not just to us, but for the world to hear, for it to echo out. And it's all about who this man Jesus is right after he was being baptized. So I hope that helps you. I hope that inspires you to read the scriptures, and read the scriptures over and over again, because you never know when you're going to come across something like this and put it all together and say, wow, I know what that means. I know what was just said. I think it's amazing. I think you should find it to be amazing as well. God is an amazing God. So I hope this helps you. God bless you. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support a local missionary, like which I am with Ratio Christi at Purdue University Northwest, I encourage you, check the link down below. You can see how you can be part of my financial team and hold me up as I minister to students on college campuses, specifically at Purdue University Northwest. I almost said Calumet Northwest, which is in Hammond, Indiana. Or you can find me serving at Freedom Church in East Chicago, Indiana, just leading worship, giving Bible studies, things of that sort. Enjoy this YouTube page if you're watching me on YouTube. If not, whatever media you're watching this on, I hope that you would subscribe, join, like, share, all of that stuff, just to help to get the word out that we are here serving God, to be able to spread the good news in the correct context and in a way that I hope blesses you beyond what we are able to do just sitting there reading the scriptures. Sometimes we need a little help, and that's all we're trying to do. Offer you something as a resource to be able to dig deeper and be able to love God and to serve him in ways that we probably wouldn't be able to do on our own. So God bless you. Thanks again for watching. Take care.